So here we are, Mindful Monday. Welcome to Mindful Monday Meditation. I'm Star Shantir, and yeah, I'm so grateful to be here. I always look forward to our Monday coming together in community, and just really grateful that you guys are all here too. And we meet every Monday, 4 o'clock on Pacific time to practice this thing we call mindful meditation and to dive deep into these matters of our soul. And today is no different. We're going to dive into this thing called generosity. And in that space, of course, is like what blocks us from that. That stingy behavior, that old Scrooge, right? So we're going to come together and, welcome ourselves home and welcome ourselves home into not only this moment, this time, this space, this beautiful virtual reality that we're in, but welcome yourself home into your temple, into your body, this thing we call the meat suit. And so tonight, I'd like to just open up our sacred space today, just calling in the directions, calling in all of these directions, opening up our sacred space and welcoming our ancestors, welcoming all who are here to help guide us in this beautiful journey of generosity. We call in our ascended masters, our guides, all that are here to cheer us on and bring us home, help us to bring us home. And we ask and we thank all of these beautiful beings for holding us in this sacred space. Thanking Pachamama for all that is and for holding us so. For this, we are so grateful, and so it is, so holy. So we'll come in, taking a nice deep breath. Exhaling, exhaling. And let us begin to release and soften into this place. We begin each of our Mindful Monday meditations with this grounding, this coming into the presence. So we just lean in and we soften and soften. And so taking another inhale and exhaling, releasing the tensions in your body, releasing all the stories of the day, coming into this present moment, and bringing our awareness to the top of our head and breathing in, seeing if you can expand into the top of your head, into this softening. And as we breathe in, we open to the soften, to that softness. And as we exhale, we let go of the tensions. Yeah, beautiful. And breathing into this area around our temples. And softening and allowing ourselves to let go. We notice this area in our sinuses connecting into the jaw. We just bring that awareness and breathing into those areas. And again, just softening. Perhaps bringing that slack jaw a little bit. And that half smile, they say, of the Buddha. That half smile of Kuan Yin. This is that interior smile where we know that we are smiling to our insides. Smiling to your insides, to your organs. Doing such a good job today. Bringing that awareness into the cervical spine, maybe wanting to move your neck around to breathe into that spaciousness and see if you can get some opening and some release in that cervical spine just by softening, just by bringing that awareness. Feeling the shoulders just wanting to drop. Yes. Allowing the weight on our shoulders to just roll on off. Carry the world around on our shoulders so often. So just taking this awareness and this breath to bring that softness and allowing this release. Noticing how your spine feels right now. And just bringing that awareness to each and every one of those little vertebrae. And softening the spine, allowing that energy to just flow in its natural state. When we hold so much tension and energy in our spine, we really do end up blocking the flow of energy within our body. So just noticing and feeling how you can open that spaciousness within your spine. And coming into this beautiful heart space, this chest, softening and opening, a beautiful heart of yours. And taking this time right now to say hello to your beautiful heart. And thanking your beautiful heart. Thanking it for doing such a great job. Feeling that breath coming in and out of your lungs. The rise and fall of your chest. Each breath bringing us to this awareness of home. And as we're here in this chest area, really paying attention to that space in the back of your heart. And seeing if you can loosen that space up. You will notice that space right there between the shoulder blades. Carrying around all of the old stories. We carry a lot of pain and suffering right here. So as we breathe and open up to that spaciousness, we allow all of that to just be released. That's delicious. And coming into the belly, and softening the belly. Softening and softening. This is where we hold our old stuff. The old childhood things, stories. So just allowing it all to just be what it is. Dropping into that pelvic bowl, breathing with breath and intention here, just softening. Allowing the hips to just open up just a little more and softening in through those deep muscles in the buttocks. And breathing into the legs. These beautiful legs and these beautiful feet that carry you and hold the weight of it all. Maybe even thanking those beautiful feet, those toes. And from the bottom of our feet with breath and intention, we're going to shoot a beam of light coming from the bottom of your feet down deep, deep, deep into the core of the earth. So let's take a deep in breath. And on this exhale, shooting that beam of light, shoo, down, down, down from the bottom of your feet, deep into the core of the earth. And taking a few breaths here to really establish that beam of light. It's connecting you to the Pachamama today, grounding you, loving you, holding you in sacred space today. And as your tensions begin to arise today, know that you can send those tensions down through that beam of light, deep into the Pachamama for that transmutation with your breath and intention. So just doing a body scan now and sensing any places that are still holding on in your physical body. And just gathering that energy up and exhaling it down to the Pachamama through that beam of light. Knowing that we are here today for the benefit of your highest good, the highest good for all of humanity, and the highest good for Pachamama as well. We come into the deep intention of our meditation today. And if you would like to take a moment to dedicate your practice, let's do so now. Perhaps you want to dedicate your practice today to a friend or a family member, or perhaps a tree or a special plant, maybe one of your plant medicines that you work with, or even a place, a piece of land that's sacred to you. So just taking the time, if you'd like to dedicate your practice today. So diving into this abyss of generosity, we begin to look at the practice of giving, or what's also known as dana, D-A-N-A. And we understand that generosity has its place in the teaching of the Buddha. And so I just kind of want to dive a little bit into that. And he taught a series of practices for people to engage as this progress along the path of enlightenment, so to speak. He always began the practice starting with talking about the importance and the benefits of the practice of generosity. Once a person has awakened, the Buddha often instructed that person to go out and be of benefit to others, to be of service. Service can be seen as an act of generosity. And so in the Buddhist path, it kind of begins and ends with this great virtue of generosity. And so we know that dana refers to the act of giving. And giving, the act of giving as well as the donation itself. And I think it's so interesting here that this word, dana, refers to this word of cage. And it's a particularly interesting word and how it connects the path of enlightenment to this path of generosity. In this particular instant, the cage itself is significant because it also means to relinquish, or this renunciation. So an act of generosity entails giving more than what is required or customary or expected in relative to one's resources or their circumstances. So when we think about this involvement of relinquishment, letting go, what we're looking at is this letting go of the stinginess, the clinging, and the greed. And so in addition, we understand that it means that we have to relinquish some parts, some of those aspects of ourself, the self-interest, right? And thus is giving of oneself. So the Buddha's teaching spoke of the spiritual efficacy of a gift is dependent not on the amount given, but rather on the attitude with which it's given. The Buddha likened a person who enjoyed wealth without sharing it with others is someone digging his own grave. So the Dalai Lama says generosity is the most natural outward expression of an inner attitude of compassion and loving kindness. And when one desires to alleviate the suffering of others and to promote their well-being, well, then generosity in this action, in this word, in this thought, is a desire really to put into practice, right? We want to practice it through the action, through the word, through the thought. It's important to recognize the generosity in this way refers to giving, not just in the material sense, but the generosity really of the heart, the opening of the heart. And as we enter into these holidays where giving is not only the priority, but the expectation, we've got to remember that it's not so much about the material gift itself, but the spirit in which we give. And yes, giving material goods is one form of generosity, but we can extend this attitude of generosity into all of our behavior. Being kind, attentive, being present, truly present with another person is a form of generosity. Being honest when we're working with other people, dealing with other people, is a form of generosity. Offering praise, good jobs where it's due, giving comfort, giving advice where it's needed, simply sharing your time and your presence. These are all forms of generosity, and they really don't require any particular level of material wealth. Thich Nhat Hanh is one of my favorite beings on this earth. And he says that he brings the simple practice of generosity. He says, whenever you visit someone's home, do their dishes for them. Not only is this a nice thing to do for someone else, Thich Nhat Hanh says that it helps to cultivate a spirit of generosity within yourself. Washing other people's dishes is a way to counteract the human tendency to be accountants in our relationships, right? Tick for tat, keeping track of how much we give or how much others receive, or in some cases take, right? This give and take, trying to keep two columns in balance. So according to Thich Nhat Hanh, this is bad math. Yeah, in his view, the more sensible thing to do is to give generously so as to discover an abundance within yourself. He tells the story of this kind of vegetable that grows in Vietnam. It's called hay, but it's actually it's an onion. It's a type of onion. Kind of looks like a scallion. And it's very good in soup. And the more that you cut the hay at the base, the more they grow. And if you don't cut them, they won't grow very much at all. But if you cut them often and right at the base of the stalk, they grow bigger and bigger and bigger. This is true of the practice of generosity. If you give and continue to give, you become richer and richer all the time. This is richer, not so much in the way of wealth, but richer in happiness, in your well-being, in your heart, being able to open, right? This may seem strange, but it's always true. Spiritual calculations don't work the way capitalism does. The math is a little different, right? The books can't be balanced because there's no agreed upon value for acts of kindness, and relationships are not purely transactional. Let that sink in. So here we are, actually giving without any expectation to receive anything in return. And yet, in all of that, without the expectation, we see that our generosity does, in fact, return in the form of abundance. So we understand that our acts of kindness actually serve the people who give, as well as those who receive the kindness. This simple dishwashing act that Thich Nhat Hanh talks about is a way to remind ourselves to practice generosity, even when others are stingy. Of course, ideally, everyone, we'd love for everybody to be contributing equally, but not everyone is always in a position to give equally in every situation. So if you can give when someone else needs to receive, not only does this bring some sort of harmony, but it just makes life nicer for everyone. And if you give for no reason at all, no attachments, or even give anonymously, now this is true mastery. Here we need to master and teach ourselves and train ourselves to move into enjoyment, the enjoyment of performing this act of generosity. So going back to Thich Nhat Hanh and washing the dishes, to my mind, the idea that doing dishes is unpleasant can occur only when you're not doing the dishes. Once you are standing in front of that sink and your sleeves are rolled up and your hands are in that warm water and you're actually doing, it's really quite pleasant. And that in and of itself is a meditation. So it all sounds good, but what if we're stuck? in that scarcity mode. And generosity just truly eludes us. Hima Children, another one of my favorites. She reminds us that the essence of generosity is, in fact, a practice of letting go. She says that pain is always a sign that we're holding on to something, and that's usually ourselves. That when we feel unhappy, when we feel inadequate, we get stingy. We hold tight. And that generosity is that activity that loosens us up. And by offering whatever we can, $1, a smile, a flower, a word of encouragement, we're actually training ourselves in letting go. So we begin the practice of letting go by opening to generosity. We know that there's so many ways to practice generosity, and the main point isn't so much what we give, but that we unlock this habit of clinging. There's a simple beginner practice that helps, that you take something in your hand that you cherish very, very much, and you practice giving it from one hand to the next. Some people find the practice of giveaway a powerful practice of generosity, and that is giving away the precious things that we have become attached to. There is an old shamanic story that in Korea, once a person turns 40 years old, the old Korean lady shaman comes to the door with a dead fish and will beat you with the dead fish until you let go of all of your attachments. So the giving practice shows us where we're holding back, where we're still clinging. From a gesture of generosity, truly letting go, we can evolve. Our perspective begins to change, and we begin to see the difference between holding on tight to actually this form of generosity, and how that energy is entwined and enwrapped around whatever it is that we're giving. And that's the biggest piece right there. The causes of aggression and fear begin to just dissolve by themselves when we move past this poverty of holding back and holding on, the scarcity mentality. The journey of generosity is one of connecting with the wealth of the bodhicitta. Now, the bodhicitta is that space of our enlightened soul, our enlightened heart, who we are as an enlightened being. So when we connect deeply and so profoundly that we're willing to give up whatever blocks us from being in that truly enlightened heart space, we open ourselves and we let ourselves be touched by the act of generosity, by that loving kindness, by that energy that is so broad and so beautiful that encompasses it all. At the everyday level, we experience it, this feeling, this energy, as flow and flexibility and as warmth. So some of the ways that we can practice, how can we begin to practice today, right now, make the commitment? Of course, we know we can give material things. Material things are fine. Material goods are the easiest for us to overcome, or at the very least, the most straightforward. If we're willing, there are pretty simple ways for us to practice this. And one easy option is to give something away every day. And actually, this way, we're actually diving deep into the practice of letting go. So, material thing could be, it's time to clean your closet out every day. And if you're really brave, you might choose to say for the next 30 days, I'm going to drop into this practice. Often we get stuck here because we underestimate how strongly we've aligned how much we have with how much we're worth. And the stronger this connection is, the more generosity can feel actually threatening. So instead of feeling like a gift we're offering to others, it's perceived as a loss that we experience in ourselves. We can observe this closely, and when we do, we understand that generosity doesn't actually have anything to do with the amount of our material possessions that we have at all. In fact, when we're practicing generosity in this material way, we are in turn giving ourselves the gift of freedom, releasing our attachments to material possessions, material goods. And by practicing this in our space of generosity, it's a powerful way of shifting the story of our worth being tied to our possessions. It provides us an opportunity to see the world beyond the base of capitalism. It gives us an opportunity to really lead from our heart space and not from our fears and from the scarcity space. So giving in the material way is one commitment that you could make. Giving the gift of fearlessness is another. So the gift of fearless generosity moves beyond the material things, and it's an offering of bravery, really, and bravery on behalf of others. And we know that courage is contagious. So when we see someone take a stand in their authentic, empowered self for something that is outside of themselves, we feel empowered to do the same. Bravery begets bravery. And by no means does fearlessness mean or require us to be without fear, because fear is a natural part of who we are. So here we consider fearlessness the act of nevertheless, or even though I feel scared, even though I feel overwhelmed, even though I feel unprepared, I will show up. I will stand up. I will speak up. I will be present. So offering bravery on behalf of others is generous because it is a gift that is much needed and often in short supply. And it is so powerful. Hema Chodron says that this act can be as simple as offering someone a flashlight when they're afraid of the dark, or staying beside someone when they're scared. It doesn't have to be a huge, fearless act. Sometimes the most powerful moments are small, everyday little things. Making that eye contact with somebody who you see is having a hard time. Sitting next to a person when they've come to visit you, even, or at your work or at an event, when we go with a loved one to a nerve-wracking appointment, leave a note of encouragement for a person who's having a big day coming up. I saw a beautiful expression of this kind of generosity recently. Here in San Diego, they do street cleaning the first week of the month, Wednesdays and Thursdays of each month. And so if your car is not moved, there's a $50 ticket. So the other day, first of the month, I saw someone had written these beautiful notes and placed them on all the cars on the street, reminding them, move your car, tomorrow's the street cleaning day. This is showing up with fearless and brave acts for the benefits of others without an attachment. There is no attachment to an outcome in this beautiful form of generosity. And so another way that we can become generous in our practice here is this practice of presence. Truly undistracted presence is such a beautiful act of generosity. Being present, fully present with a person in all that they are, in the good, the bad, and the ugly, without any attachment to an outcome. This is beautiful act of generosity. It's deep listening, without moving to fix it, fade it, shove it under the carpet. This is truly an act of generosity. It's remembering that we're all connected and that my well-being will always be tied to yours. So if someone is hungry, Be generous with your food. When someone is scared, be generous with your bravery. When someone is confused or in that ignorant space, be generous with your compassion and with your wisdom. Being generous is leading by example, a better way of life. This is the true act of service for the greater good of humanity. Committing your life to living in truth. This is the ultimate act of service. This is all just acts of showing up for each other. And we can do that. So dropping into your heart space, really feeling your heart right now. And feeling in the back of your heart, that very tender space. And sensing your beliefs that have been conditioned in about generosity and or that holding on, that stinginess, that scarcity within yourself. And allowing those stories that are holding on in your heart. Your sense of unworthiness. What's blocking you from your bodhicitta, from your enlightened heart? Are you willing to let it go? That scarcity mentality, there's not enough. I don't have enough. I can't give it away. Can we open your heart to the space of generosity? And just breathe that into your heart. And thinking about how you can give your unconditional presence in a deeper way. What are some of those situations in your life right now? Where you can be in that generous space of giving your presence. And can you step more into your fearlessness, stand in your power for others? What are those situations that are calling forth to you right now? And what are you holding on to that just needs to be gifted? Let go. Where is that inner greed? That stinginess? That holding on? Where is it within you? Let's do a physical body scan right now. Scan your body and find out, where is this story in my physical body may show up as tightness or pain or heaviness. Notice where you've actually started to hold tight in your body. And with breath and intention, we're going to feed all of that, all of those aspects with pure bliss love. We're going to pour abundance of love on all of these aspects of our emotional stories. And so taking a nice deep in breath, thinking of that pure bliss love, that generosity, out breath. Seeing it, feeling it, just melting away those old stories. Another deep breath in. Big love, big generosity, out breath. Pouring it all over that tightness, that stinginess, those feelings that my worth is tied to my possessions. Softening, softening, opening to generosity. Pouring that pure bliss love onto all of those parts of ourselves that's holding on to our suffering. It's holding on to our pain. And right here, right now, we choose with our free will, we decide to shift it. And we shift it by opening our hearts and committing. We make the commitment with our words, with our deeds, with our actions of giving without attachment. What is your commitment right now to generosity? Will you do a 30-day? Breathe it in. Breathe that commitment in. Feel it in your heart. Yes. Let all of these acts of generosity, this generous heart of yours, begin to expand. And feel that expansion of your lovely, lovely heart. I am generous with my actions. I am generous in material things. I am generous with my presence, my time, my energy. I give from a loving place in my heart. so that I may relieve the suffering of other beings. I am in service to the greater good of all beings. May the light of generosity in all of its forms shine brightly within us, right here. May the light of generosity shine in the light of all beings around the world, in all of its forms. May our generosity ripple out and touch the lives of all beings that we encounter. May we live a life of generosity in pure service. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is. Blessings and blessings and blessings. May your generous heart be so full right now of love. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you all for being willing to be here, being willing to open your heart and sink into this thing called generosity. So it is. I hope to see you next week. And let's see what else. I think that's all.